Contender season in the heavyweight division, very real thing right now. And you had a couple of top flight heavyweights, maybe not fighting for number one contendership, but certainly fighting for contendership in Rosenstrike and JDS. And one thing going into this fight, you would be very reasonable if you're looking at history as a way of proving your point, would be to come to the conclusion that this fight is not going to go the distance, okay? I mean, it's a pretty obvious one. Pretty obvious one, at least if you go look at their resumes and both of their stoppages, you look at their styles, you're going to come to that conclusion. As long as we don't get double-crossed and somebody lays an egg. Now, I will tell you right now, that fight wouldn't have gone as long as that fight did. Not only would have we all looked like the smartest guy in the room giving that prediction, we would have looked at even sooner. But there was one thing that was interesting. This was not a matter of two guys having respect for one another, and therefore they did not engage. These guys engaged, and there was not a feeling out process. These guys were throwing night-ending shots the duration of the contest. What we underestimated was the defense of both athletes. Like Junior Dos Santos was doing that one where he dips down and throws that overhand right, but it comes like a windmill. I mean, it'd break right through a concrete wall, but Rosenstruck was slipping it. Junior threw it a few times. Junior hit that spinning back kick that he knocked Mark Hunt out with. He threw that early. Then the first minute of the fight, boom, in perfect form, perfect everything. Rosenstruck got out of the way. That went the other way, too. Rosenstruck was throwing some heat, and Junior was dealing with it. So I feel that we underestimated the defensive abilities of both men. That's the only part that we might have missed. It was a very interesting fight, and it played out exactly as you would have predicted ahead of time, which there was no groundwork. Junior Dos Santos, who is more likely to win a grappling match between the two, has to get you to the ground. He's great on the feet. He's good on the ground. He's never been a guy to favor the in-between. He's never been a guy that, okay, I don't want to be on my feet with you anymore. I want you on the ground. That's what I'm identifying as the in-between. And so therefore, I'm going to take you to this new realm. He's never really been that guy. Rosenstruck has certainly never been that guy. So you got to stand up. Exactly what we thought it was going to be. I had an interesting moment after the fight, which is I got to visit with Rosenstruck for a moment, but I also got to visit with Rosenstruck's coach. And these guys fought, and there was a little downtime in the O'Malley. By the time I'm dealing with Rosenstruck, this happens to be at the same time that Stipe is walking to the cage. And he's at the check-in point where they're putting a little Vaseline. You got your mouthpiece, you got your cup. Good luck, champ. He's dealing with that, and that's on a monitor. So I turned to Rosenstruck's coach, and I said, by the way, coach, what do you make of Stipe? Is very skinny. He's not just lighter. He's not just leaner. He's flat skinny. In comparison to how he used to be, what do you think? He said, man, I don't know what to make of that. He said, it strikes me as the wrong approach. And then he points to Rosenstruck. He goes, I'm trying to put weight on him. We still got 5 pounds before we reach the limit. I want to use all 5 of those. I'm trying to put weight on him. He said, my athlete, talking about Rosenstruck, he said he works out so much that he can't eat enough to gain. I'm trying to put weight on him. I'm a little surprised by Stipe. Thought that was an interesting perspective. I tend to lean towards coach. Stipe sees it another way. He's getting some interesting results. This is still an experiment. It's really never been done before, where a current champion changes his body. We're seeing some very good results. Hold that thought. Do what you'd like with that. But there is something happening in front of our eyes here that we're going to need a little bit of time to deduce. Before we go learn and steal and take from what Stipe's doing right now, by getting a little bit smaller, going to need a little bit more time. It's never been done. One-off. But it's a one-off by the champion of the world. Okay. So after the fight, and Rosenstruck wants to fight for the championship. Rosenstruck wants the title fight. But he also wants Ngannou. He doesn't like how that fight went. Ngannou has his eyes on the prize. And Dana White saying, yeah, man, you got it. Ngannou's done everything you need to do. And you know what? That's a really hard one to argue with. There is kind of a rule in this sport. Very unwritten one, but if you beat a former world champion, you will now be fighting for the world championship. Ngannou stopped JDS and stopped Cain Velasquez, and that's off the top of my head. Where do you want to fit Overeem in? He's won enough championships in enough places. Is he going to qualify as that? I mean, this is just off the top of my head. Stopping these guys. First round, touching them one time and grabbing his towel and headed for the shower. Very hard to not go along with what Dana White is saying, which is, yes, this guy absolutely deserves it, and he's absolutely getting it. But at the same time, as Dana's saying this, John Jones is on social media. And John Jones at heavyweight is interesting. Period. Hard stop. Not just against Stipe for a heavyweight championship. John Jones at heavyweight is interesting. And there's a lot of parity in a lot of different places you could put him that will at least spark my interest. Whole new matchups. How's he going to deal with? Once he goes and deals with whatever the question is, it's probably going to be less interest. John's going to do great up there. But prior to the fight, it is very interesting, and I don't know that that's something you can say for him right now at 205 pounds. Right now, he has one interesting fight. It's with Dominic Reyes. When that's done, it appears that he's going to have another fight that's very interesting. That's with the Polish Hammer. But not yet. At heavyweight, I think I could play that game off the top of my head and spend the next 10 to 15 minutes telling you matches that you would all agree with. I don't know that John Jones is interested, and I say I don't know because I don't know. He hasn't made it clear. I don't know that John Jones would be interested in ever leaving 205 pounds for anything less than a world title fight at heavyweight. I don't know that. But John Jones did come out, and he was talking about Ngannou at one point, who was not the champion. So he has shown some signs that he's just looking for an interesting, most people will call it big. Big and interesting are the same thing. You want to be a big fight, you got to be an interesting fight. If you're an interesting fight, you're going to be a big fight. I'm using the word interesting right now. That he would be open to the idea of going up for an interesting fight at heavyweight. I don't know that that's going to go anywhere. But I do think we have a talking point. I think that it helps to prove the fact that we are in contender season in the heavyweight division. That's fun. Who's now is important. Who's next is fun.